Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm showing you how I set up Winlator Ludashi on my Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 device. If you've been struggling with configuring your containers and shortcuts and how to save game setups, this guide will walk you through step by step. Alright, before we dive into containers, the first thing I do is download the newest graphics drivers for my Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 device. Tap the download button in the top right corner to bring up the driver download manager. This is where you can download the latest drivers for your device. And right now I'm really liking these two latest releases. They've given me smoother gameplay and fewer crashes over the last little while. Once those are installed, I go back to the main menu and I select Contents. I start by downloading the newest Wine version first. I always grab the newest version because it sets the foundation for compatibility and ensures my save games and components work properly. After that, I download the newest contents. These usually give the best performance for modern titles. But here's a tip. I also keep a few older versions, especially for DXVK, because some older games need very specific configurations to run correctly, and having those versions on hand saves me a lot of troubleshooting time. These versions listed on the screen give the best performance for Adreno GPUs at this time when using Proton ARM64 EC containers. Always make sure you're using the newest FX score. It's usually updated every month, so make sure you check back every once in a while to make sure you are using the newest version. So in short, newest drivers, newest wine version, newest contents, and then a backup of a few older DXVK builds for those tricky classics. This combo gives me the flexibility to run both new and old games without headaches. Alright, now let's talk about creating containers. When I create a new container, I usually keep most of the settings at the default values. The only thing I always change is the name of the container. You can call it whatever you want, but I like to give mine a specific name so I know exactly which games are inside. Next, I make sure I'm using the newest Wine version, and I switch the graphics driver to one of the newest drivers I downloaded earlier. This makes a big difference in performance and stability. Now here's an important tip for Winlator Ludashi users as of version 2.8. If you're running a Snapdragon GPU, make sure to turn off BCN emulation under the GPU driver settings. If you leave it on, you will likely run into crashes across all your games. If you're running a Mali GPU, then you can just leave this on. After doing that, it really doesn't matter which DXVK version you pick here. Each game will need to use a specific DXVK build that works best for it. For the drive settings, I set one drive as my main Android root drive, not my downloads folder. This will become apparent why later. And the other drive to where I store all my games. For me, that's on my memory card, so everything stays organized and is easy to access. Now I just make sure I'm using the newest FX core, and I leave everything else the way it is and just click on the checkmark to create the container. Now, I like to install Ajay's Prefix. This is a useful utility for installing needed components and protecting your save games. You can download it from the link provided on the screen. Make sure you grab the latest Pro version so you can get all the newest bug fixes included. Download the .zip file and extract the file into my downloads folder. I'll now walk you through installing this useful utility. It's a simple process. Open your container and navigate to your downloads folder inside Winlator. This will be your D drive, then the downloads folder. Open the downloaded prefix folder and run the setup for wine batch file inside your container, and it will automatically begin configuring the prefix for you. When When the Ajay's Prefix folder selector appears and asks for the path for the prefix, we set up the drives earlier to make this part easy. Just click the 3 dots and choose D drive for both. This is where our saved games will be located. Click Save Paths, and then you can close this window. Ajay's Prefix does 2 really important jobs. It saves your game's progress in a separate location outside the container. That means if you ever delete or recreate the container, you won't lose your saved games. It also lets me install the basic components most games need to run. Things like DirectX libraries and fonts, and even apply specific fixes for tricky titles when needed. Click next to all these boxes. This just explains what Ajay's Prefix is used for and how we can avoid any damage to our container. Click OK to the pop-up window, and now your installation is done. It will give us a convenient way to access any fixes or components we might need to install in the future. Now, before we exit the container, I always like to install the necessary components just to make sure that any games I run inside this container will work smoothly and I will not have any crashes or issues while I'm trying to test games. So with Ajay's Prefix installed, I have both peace of mind for my saves and a smoother setup for compatibility. Once Ajay's Prefix is ready, it's time to create shortcuts. So go to the drive you set as your game folder earlier, mine is the F drive, and locate the games you want to create shortcuts for. Find the .exe files and right-click or 2-finger click on the file. Select Create Shortcut. This makes launching the game super easy, no need to dig through folders every time. Finally, let's talk about settings. Go to the Winlator main menu and click the shortcuts. Click the 3 dots next to the shortcut to enter the settings for the game. You can set the resolution to 720p or 1080p depending on the game's demand. For most games, I recommend using DXVK 2.4.1 ARM for best results inside the Proton 10 ARM container. For audio, I usually use Pulse Audio, but for this game, ALSA Audio seems to work best. This one is a trial and error for the most part. I also set the services to aggressive to eliminate any service that might take up CPU or RAM in the background. I always try to use the newest FX core and set it to performance. Unless I get crashes, then I will drop it down into intermediate or compatibility. Once this is done, click OK and then tap on your shortcut and your game should launch. And that's it. You now have Winlator Ludashi fully set up with containers, Ajay's Prefix, some shortcuts, and optimized settings. If this helped you, drop a like, subscribe for more gaming setup guides, and let me know in the comments which game you're running first. Thanks for watching.